Welcome to Intro to NEPA. Classes of action, documentation, and decision.
So we go through all this effort, and then there's 3 different types of projects, classes of action that come out of NEPA. And the test is whether or not there's significant impacts. I'd say 95% of our projects do not have significant impacts. And those are CADXs. They still have impacts and mitigation, but the larger ones that add capacity, that build a tunnel, that a new interchange, those are kind of fall in the EA range. So examples of that are 70 and Kipling, Floyd Hill. I think, adding Wadsworth in Wheat Ridge is an EA. Some of you might be working on some others as well. I think Spear, the bridges there near I-25. So those ones either, we need to go through alternatives. We need to engage the public. But for CADXs, you don't. We know exactly how to build a bridge. We know exactly how to resurface. We don't need to engage the public on an a fiber installation. And we don't need to develop alternatives. And so those ones can go much quicker. EISs are very rare. They're long, they're expensive, they're controversial. Examples of those are Central 70, before that, US 36. The Mountain Corridor is operating under a EIS programmatic, but CDOT was kind of entrenched in these generational studies that were really just not the best way to deliver projects. And we've since tried to shift to planning and environmental linkage studies that help us make decisions in a little bit more efficient way. Are any of you working on EAs right now that can maybe speak to that, or give any questions? There's one that's waking up right now. I-270 is an environmental assessment as well in Region 1.
David, are you going to get more into categorical exclusions?
This is really it.
Okay.
I'm talking about documentation here, but I haven't. We could spend some time on that, since that might be a good focus for this group.
Yeah. The points that I'd like you to make is just a 2-second about why they're called categorical exclusions, meaning it's a page full of all these different categories, and how that is made. Who makes the decisions on?
Yeah.
It's not, maybe I should just say, it's not that an engineering goes, hey, we're going to have a project. And then we all sit around, we have a couple of beers, we roll a dice and go, oh, bummer, dude. EA, sorry, man. No, that's not. There's actually criteria.
Yeah, that's a good point. And so the good news is that since CDOT's been doing this for so long, and FHWA's been doing it for so long, we have a good sense on the impacts associated with the types of activities that we mentioned before. And so the federal regs have actually made a list and saying, if you're doing a resurfacing, it's a CADX. If you're doing a bridge replacement, it's a CADX. If you're doing, any of these 30 activities that are somewhat benign, we know that traditionally there are not significant impacts, but we still go through the analysis. We still have to evaluate impacts, because maybe there is something unique with a project. And so we want to look at the context to help us. But it's your environmental project managers working with FHWA, looking at the regs, and then they can say, we think it's a CADX because of it meets the definition of this category of the regs. And furthermore, CDOT's been empowered. FHWA has delegated this authority to approve these. They don't want to be bothered with the hundreds of projects that we deliver each year. They only want to see the kind of a risk management exercise. They want to see the really nasty CADXs. So they're going to provide oversight if you do need to build a wall, or you are having an adverse impact to a historic resource, something like that. So here it talks about the third bullet, you need to take a hard look at the impacts. And it's only after we've done all those analysis and the environmental manager has checked off all of these clearance requests and saying, yeah, I feel good that this is a CADX, they'll sign it then.
Only thing I would add, just from my years of experience, is my favorite saying, it's just an overlay. And what happens is it's just an overlay. We're going to mill and fill. Oh, and then we're going to fix this guardrail over here. Oh, and look, we have a bridge rail we need to fix. And you know what, while we're at it, let's take out that signal pole. You know, maybe we should re-concrete that pork chop, and it needs to be bigger. It should have 2 lanes. Okay, wait a second. Now we're totally out of overlay. And, you know, if we just widen this sidewalk in front of this really old house, but it's just an overlay. No, wait, you've just hit lead-based paint. You've hit a historic property. You've hit a historic bridge rail. You've hit, and I don't mean to bag on historics. You know, we're just going to replace this culvert in this river. Wait a second. Now we're going to have to do a 404 permit. And we talked about scope creep. What happens is now all of a sudden, instead of it just being a simple, you're going to mill and fill, we've got to do all of these other clearances, and we're going to need more time, and we may need some additional resources for mitigation. Yes, birds.
So good points. And I've, you know, it happens in kind of an innocent way, like, oh, more money's been freed up, or a new pool can be added, and there's such efficiencies while we're mobilized, let's do this work. It makes complete sense, but we just have to, you know, be thinking about, you know, as the project evolves, continue to collaborate. So back to the larger projects, to the EAs and the EISs, we show our work and it's documented, and then it's published, and the public has an opportunity to comment and then challenge the decision as well. So there are EAs out on the streets right now, and they've got 30 or 45 days to comment. And you know, for the most part, CDOT does a good job of really over communicating and engaging. So we're not hearing a lot. We have a chance to address anything up front, so there aren't a lot of surprises. Other sectors of the, you know, energy or the Forest Service, or, you know, they might have interior, they may not, there might be more controversy or surprises. But for us, you know, we're going to move quickly and try to get a FONSI if there's no impacts, significant impacts, or a ROD if it's an EIS. And again, it's not, the test isn't, did you pick the one with the least harm? It's, did you make an arbitrary or capricious decision? Did you ignore, either not look at the impacts or ignore the impacts in making a decision?